This episode is brought to you by Farmers Insurance. When was the last time you reviewed your insurance policy? So it's been a while, huh? Well, no worries. My friends at the Austin Brummett Agency would love to hear from you and provide you with some amazing rates. Give them a call at 678-402-8262 or email them at abrummett@farmersagent.com. That's ABRUMIT@farmersagent.com, and tell them Harley sent you. Insiders, Inside the Bubble with Harley G is now sponsored by BetterHelp. As a partner of this episode, listeners can access the BetterHelp link located in the show notes to receive 10% off your first month of therapy with BetterHelp and get matched with a therapist who will listen and help. Go to BetterHelp, that is BetterHelp.com/inside the bubble, the link to get started. You're listening to Inside the Bubble with Harley G, the podcast for the superwoman. Every week, we connect with amazing individuals who share their inspirational experiences and stories while motivating and inspiring purpose. It's time to hang your cape. Grab your coffee, your water, your cocktail, and come on in Inside the Bubble with me, your host, Harley G. Welcome, insiders. Today, I feel like you're probably one of the most interesting people that I've had on the pod. I just feel like, Athena, you are I love that, and you listeners will hear this. It's a very, I would like to call it a very spiritual journey. And this is actually the first time I've known or connected with someone who does what you do. So I'm really like, people are like, Hardy, what is it? Stop procrastinating. Tell us what she does. But I'm not going to do that. I'm going to let you share what you do and introduce yourself. So welcome, Athena. So happy to have you on the pod today and to talk about what you do and how you impact people's lives around you. So please introduce yourself and tell us what you do.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm super excited. I'm super excited about your journey as well and what you offered to women. And I'm so happy to share my story. I am a shaman. So I work as a spiritual counselor. I know you're from Haiti, am I right? It was Haiti?
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
Okay. All right. So I'm Creole roots, born in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. So I have, like, from what I understand, some Haitian roots as well, the French roots, Spanish roots, Native American, all the things. So in a lot of our ancestral cultures, like in Haitian culture, African culture, Latin culture, Native American culture, we had shamans, we had our medicine people, right? So we had like the medicine man or the medicine woman, the witch doctor, so to say.
Yes.
And we, in a sense, we kind of came to forget these individuals in society, right? So over time, we placed a lot of trust and faith kind of in like mainstream medicine,
Yes.
pharmaceuticals, traditional like licensing, psychotherapy, and all of these things. And we also lost touch with our spiritual selves. A lot of us, in the grind, having to work and perform and follow societal order, we lost connection with our spiritual selves. So today, fortunately, there is a rise of medicine people in our culture, and I'm super excited about it. I came to it through my own personal journey with illness, dealing with chronic pain, chronic illness, and wanting to leave my corporate job, right? Like basically completely change my life and find my purpose. And I was kind of forced into this work through finding a shaman. And the shaman was the one who was able to help me to heal myself, right? So that shaman actually helped me to heal myself from my chronic illness and pain, which I had suffered a lot of loss and thought that I had cancer. I'd lost my mama and lost some other family members to cancer all within like a few months of each other.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I came down sick, I was so sure that I had cancer.
Mm-hmm.
And I was getting a lot of invasive testing done. The doctors couldn't figure it out. I was almost a year. I was suffering with vomiting every day, extreme gastrointestinal pain. I was losing weight. I was just constantly hurting and sick, feeling sick to my stomach, and they couldn't figure it out.
Hmm.
Uh, so
So you
eventually,
went through this journey of like being really sick, and you just described some of those symptoms that you had.
yeah,
And now psychologically and emotionally, what was happening? So, you tell us about the physical part, but like
yeah,
psychologically and emotionally, even spiritually, what's happening right now?
yeah.
Going
So
through that.
I love that question. What's so interesting is before the sickness hit, probably about a year before, I had moved and left the city to move to the beach.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, there were things that were kind of pushing me out of the city, like the cost of living, the high level stress with the corporate job. I worked in architecture. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
so there were certain things that were kind of pushing me out of the city and toward what I was curious about and wanting to do.
Mm-hmm.
Right before I left the city, I had done a yoga teacher training. I'd had my
Mm-hmm.
second child. But then, all within that time of me moving, I lost my mom. And so
Mm-hmm.
she was my everything. She was my rock. She was my best friend. And even though we didn't live in the same city anymore, we talked twice a day, every day.
Mm-hmm.
So all of a sudden, I'm in this new town in the
Mm-hmm.
beach, new culture. I know not a single person, and my number one person just dies.
Yeah.
Right. So I was in the worst grief you could imagine.
Mm-hmm.
With now three kids, because I had my daughter right after we moved to the beach. So I had two very
Mm-hmm.
close together.
Mm-hmm.
So finding myself now with three kids, my husband's going to work. I don't have my career anymore, which was my source of identity. I'm
Mm-hmm.
financially limited because I don't have my career that gave me freedom. And I don't know what I want to do, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I'm grieving a lot at that time. I was grieving loss. I was grieving my old self. I was grieving my career. I was grieving my friends in the city. And then with three kids, I was grieving the time and space that I had for myself. Physically, I was in the best shape of my life because my yoga
Mm.
practice was on point when I
Okay.
moved, right? So I
Okay.
remember like I would look at pictures of right after I had Wolf, my second, right before I got pregnant with my third, and I was ripped. I had like this, my stomach was ripped. I looked so good. Yes, on my legs. I was like, damn, I look so good. Excuse me.
Oh,
And
it's okay.
we say damn. Um, right? So I look back at pictures, I'm like, wow. But then all of a sudden, my health just tanked with the
Mm-hmm.
weight loss and the sickness and all the things. But it was the grief when I went to the shaman after struggle, and I didn't even know what a shaman was at that point, but I
Mm-hmm.
was very
Mm-hmm.
open-minded. She did, waving her hands over my body, kind of hands over healing, and then she turned me over and she looked me in my eyes and she said, "What are you sad about?" And I was
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, right, my mama. So we talked
Mm-hmm.
about it, and she was like, she's right here. She's
Mm-hmm.
right here. And she told me all these things about her and about myself that no one could have known who didn't know me.
Mm-hmm.
So she had me like, I was in a state of shock and awe. And she said to me very clearly and firmly, you have to grieve. And she said, if you don't grieve, it will become cancer. And so, I went home that night and I just prayed and I asked God, like, how do I grieve?
Mm-hmm.
Heard in my
The
head.
thing too, it's like when somebody tells you you need to do something, yeah, that sounds great, but
Yeah.
you don't have any idea how to do that. One of the things is like, um, my mom was telling me at some point, she was like, you have to trust and surrender. That's great. How? I'm a very controlling person. How do I do that? And so it's one thing to tell someone that they need to do it, but then and with each individual that varies, right? So your way of grieving is not going to be the same way I'm going to grieve. There might be some parts of it that's similar, but we're not going to do it the same, and it's never no two person are alike. So how do you even begin to understand how you need to grieve?
Right.
Yes.
Such a good statement there about because right, like, with humor I could say when you say like, "Oh, you
Right.
need to trust and surrender," like, is there a
Right.
manual for that, right? Like, is there a manual for parenting? I'm always like, yeah, so like there's not a manual for parenting. I mean, there's a lot of books that maybe consider themselves a manual
Yes.
for parenting, but
There isn't.
child is different, right? There's no manual for this,
There's not. Yes.
right? So
Right.
we can only learn through those tools. I found that the strongest tools for me are those that put the power in my hands,
Mm.
right? And like I said, I went and I prayed and I asked God directly.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
that's what I try to teach my people to do now
Mhm.
is,
Mhm.
I try to teach them like there is a higher force that you
Mhm.
can go to. A lot of people don't believe in God anymore, unfortunately.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so you push
Yeah.
people to like, do you believe in the universe? Do you believe in the
Yes.
stars?
Yes.
Energy, like what do you believe in? And then go to that. Do you believe
Mhm.
in your 6-year-old self? Go to
Yeah.
her. Who can you go to
Mhm.
ask that question of how? So that's what I did. I went, I
Mhm.
prayed, I asked God, like, how do I grieve? And I heard, write your mom a letter, write her a letter. And that's what I did. And I wrote her a letter that night, the first of many.
Mhm.
The next day, I woke up healed, like completely. This was also the day after I visited the shaman, right?
Mhm.
So I think it
Mhm.
was all the things combined that helped to move
Mhm.
that energy out of my body, um,
Mhm.
to loosen up that tension and that pain, to soften it.
So how did you feel for you to recognize that I'm healed now? I mean,
Oh,
some people would say that happened kind of quick,
it totally
but
happened quick.
right,
Yeah, yeah.
because
Just
some
believe,
people need to stay in it longer. Some people
right?
they're able to compartmentalize, and even though they may think that they're over it, but they're really not,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So how did you recognize that you were truly like beyond that part, that phase of your
Mm,
life?
I
Yes.
love that. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, to answer that, I was in disbelief, like
Mm-hmm.
literal disbelief. I was like, okay. I remember being like, and I was a skeptic, I
Mm-hmm.
was like, maybe I feel better today, right?
Right.
But
Right.
like, it's probably gonna come back tomorrow,
Temporary. Right.
right? And so
Right.
I was scared to eat. Because at the time, like I couldn't eat anything except for like I remember I could eat grapes and I could
Mm-hmm.
eat Ensure. I was drinking Ensure every day,
Right. Okay.
basically to stay alive.
The protein shake. Yeah.
Right. So, but anything else, a little bit of right, but I could barely eat for almost a year. So that day I was scared to eat still. So I was like, I'm gonna be safe, eat what I know my body can take. Um, I'm pretty sure this will probably come back tomorrow.
Mhm.
So I'm going to write another letter today to try to protect myself so that it doesn't come back tomorrow.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay.
So I was
Okay.
like, I'm just going to keep doing it because it worked for the
Hmm.
first day. So I
Right.
wrote another letter the next day. And I did that for a while. I kept writing to her and I started to journal. It turned into me journaling. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
then it turned into me writing about all of the other things that hurt me in my life over
Mm.
time. Then it turned into me grieving the marriage that I knew was beginning to unravel,
Oh,
right?
wow.
So
Mm-hmm.
as I was healing my physical self, the next wave came, which was the marriage.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
but my physical self started to feel good. I started to
Mm-hmm.
teach yoga um,
Mm-hmm.
in my new community, and I feel like I started to come back alive
Mm-hmm.
after that. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah,
Okay. You go through this process and you are beginning to feel okay. You're beginning to feel hopeful. You're
hmm,
beginning to feel like, okay, the fog is lifting finally,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
But like you mentioned, you're also going through the process of a marriage unraveling while your physical self is it's finally getting to where you needed to go.
yeah.
But how did you just got a hold of this? Now this is happening, right? So
Right.
how was that?
Yeah, that was pretty wild. What's interesting is like even as you're asking me that, all that keeps coming into my mind is the word strength. So
Mm.
like I was very weak during that time. Like I had lost weight, I was frail, I was weak. I was trying to keep up with breastfeeding, all the things. And
Pure Necessity is a lifestyle service offering career and leadership development, real estate resources, and motivational speaking to jumpstart your legacy building. While I am happy to work with anyone looking to build their legacy, I have a heart and passion for young professionals. Why? Because I've been right where you are, trying to forge my path without clear direction, yet a burning desire to do and have more. If you are ready to position yourself for abundance, visit my website at purenecessity.life. Your legacy is essential.
I ended up, after a year ending breastfeeding with my daughter, also was taking my energy. So as I end the breastfeeding, as I'm coming back to eating again, getting back to teaching yoga, I'm slowly building strength. It was the strength that gave me kind of the power to make that very difficult decision to leave the relationship. So, in hindsight, sometimes you look back and you wonder, did I need to be sick for that time to stay? If I was strong and healthy, would I have left sooner? Right? Was that kind of God's way of holding me idle for a
Yes.
year
Yes.
before unleashing me?
Uh-huh.
We never really know. We get to
Right.
that story,
Yeah.
but I would say, yeah, it was me building strength. And then I remember just this moment where I felt so firm. It was an interaction with my husband at the time that really hit me and hurt me and angered me all at once. And it was that catalytic moment that had accumulated for years, but it was me realizing that moment, I don't have to deal with this frustration and this anger and this what feels like mistreatment to me. I don't have to deal with this. I don't have to be resentful. I can choose in my power to leave. And I didn't know how because I had left my corporate job with money,
Right.
right?
Right. Right.
So I'm like, I just moved to the beach. It's still kind of expensive to live here, and I don't have a corporate job with a salary. I don't have a salary at all. I'm making
Right.
$20 a class teaching yoga, right? So
Wow.
I can't
Yes.
get a place that's $2,000 a month.
Right.
What do I do?
And you have kids,
And I
right?
have 3 kids, right?
Right.
And I have no family here,
Right.
like I don't know what to do, but my strength is what empowered me to say out loud to him. And I remember it clear as day. I said, I don't know how I'm going to leave, but in the next year, I would like to leave. I would like to get a place of my own and move out. And I loved him very much. It wasn't something where he was abusive or cheating or anything like this. I loved my husband very much, and I thought maybe with some time apart we can come back together, right? Like maybe if I move out because I'm burnt out, I'm exhausted, I'm resentful of you because you're not helping me. We were great friends in high school and in college in our 20s, but parenting with you is not okay. Right? Right? It's a different story. So people grow and they grow differently and they have to learn. And so I felt like, okay, if I can move out, then we'll figure this out and maybe we'll come back together. I was in such a place of strength that I was okay with not knowing.
Okay.
Right? So I just felt so in my power at that time. So I told him that. I had no idea how I was going to do that. Yeah.
So did you end up staying and then within a year you were able to move out and he was okay with that plan?
He was not okay with that. No.
I to ask these questions because the listeners might be like, "Well, what happened?"
I know, right? I know. I mean, in a perfect world, like in a perfect world,
right?
we would have had the celebrity uncoupling, the conscious uncoupling. Like that's what I wanted with what Gwyneth Paltrow had supposedly with her and Chris with the conscious uncoupling. I was like, maybe we can have that. We could do that.
Yes.
That was not what it was.
That was like, no.
It was not. He was like, no. So the universe has a funny way of pushing us, moving us, propelling us forward.
Yes.
Right when we get scared, throw something at us that gives us no choice.
Right.
So all of these things transpired over the year. I was building my business. We were sleeping separately at that time in the same home.
Mhm.
So I thought, like, okay, this is fine. You know, we get along, we can raise the kids together, and I can be working toward moving out. Unfortunately, as the universe often does, a few months after, I ended up meeting someone. And
Mhm.
it's kind of that like catalytic, push that,
Mhm.
yeah, you definitely don't want what is going on in your home.
Mhm.
You can have your needs met in other ways.
Mhm.
So I started a relationship. It was brief, but it
Mhm.
was that catalytic relationship just to give me a taste of what was on the outside
Mhm.
to
Mhm.
kind of lure me further forward.
Mhm.
So that, as you can imagine, was very hurtful to my husband at the time.
Yep. Mhm.
So we tried to work through, I tried to work through it with him, just the pain part of it, because
Mhm.
I knew I still wanted to move out, but
Yes.
I also didn't want him to be hurt in the process, right?
Yes.
So it's so tricky navigating out of a relationship, being the one
Mhm.
who chooses it and not
Mhm.
hurting the other
Yes.
party. I
Yes.
can't control no one can control another person's reactions.
Mhm.
So it ended up getting ugly as the months went on, and
Mhm.
there was another catalytic moment that pushed me out.
Mhm.
I was working in an integrative health practice with a naturopathic physician. We had a lot of holistic practitioners and myself under one roof. I was working as a shaman at this point.
Mhm.
We kind of jumped forward, but
Okay.
through those 2 years that we just jumped forward through, I
Mhm.
ended up training as a shaman. I
Mhm.
was so moved by the shaman that healed me. So I trained, I apprenticed, and I ended up being offered spaces to work immediately. So
Mhm.
it all transpired very quickly. I was a part of
Mhm.
the integrative health practice. I was growing in my own work and my own practice.
Mhm.
That worked with me, her girls had all went off to college. And
Okay.
so she told me, hey, I have 3 vacant bedrooms in my house.
Right. Okay.
He said, if you and the kids want to come stay with me, live with me for a time while you save up to get
Mhm.
your place, I would love for you guys to come. I'm an empty nester,
Yeah.
so I would love the
Okay.
company.
Okay.
My ego was like, oh, I don't know if I can go, take that
Mhm.
offering from someone. And so
Yes.
I sat with it for a month or two, and then my husband and I had one of those catalytic
Yeah.
moments
Yes.
that was the final, okay, I have to go. I don't have a
Yes.
choice,
Right.
right? And so I ended up moving in with her, and I stayed there for, I believe, it was about 6 to 8 months,
Mhm.
working my butt off, saving my money, and then I was
Mhm.
able to get my own little townhouse in at the beach. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. It was
That's
pretty incredible.
that's great. But a few things. It's like, oof, knowing, just admitting that, hey, I got to a space where maybe I didn't quite make the right decision, and as a result, it ended up, hurting this individual that I'm
Yes.
supposed to care about. And so, just putting that out there and being vulnerable, I appreciate you saying that. And then another thing too is, I mean, we had to fast forward a little bit to your story, but can you tell us about that moment where you knew this is what I'm supposed to be doing? I'm supposed to become a shaman. This is my purpose. Like, how did that come about? Now, you haven't had the experience with the shaman that healed you, but
Yeah,
like, and we talked about how you were like, hey, I didn't believe that it really happened.
yeah,
And so what did that timeline look like?
yeah, yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
when I saw the shaman that first visit, she actually said to me, you have all these gifts. She was like, what
Mhm.
do you want to do?
Mhm. Right.
And I was crying. I was like, I don't know. I was like, I don't
Yes.
want architecture anymore.
Right.
I don't know. I guess teach yoga. you know,
Uh-huh.
I don't know what my options are. I was an artist. I actually started out in fine art. So I was like, maybe
Mhm.
I could be an artist and do yoga.
Yes.
And she's like, well, you have these gifts of clairsentience, which is clear feeling. Uh,
Mhm.
you have your mom and other women in your family had clairvoyance, which is clear
Mm-hmm.
seeing. And
Mm-hmm.
she's like, so I mean, with what you have, you could be a shaman.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so explain the difference between the now you said, clear sentience is clear
Feeling,
healing. Okay.
clear feeling, like you feel
Oh,
everything.
feeling, sorry.
Yeah,
Clear
feeling.
feeling. So
Right.
what does that look like? Does that mean that you have like
Yeah.
vision and you know exactly what's happening in the like what does that look like?
Yeah, so I'll tell you what that looks like. It started when I was a child, actually.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of us, we have these abilities or gifts when we're kids. I'm a huge X-Men fan. So, yeah, X-Men. Are you a fan?
Sorry, I'm just
I know, right? Oh my goodness. Do we
I
share
love
that?
X-Men. I'm a superhero fan.
Yes, me too.
It's
Me
like
too.
I love Marvels. I've
Yeah,
seen all the Captain.
yeah,
I've seen them all. You know,
yes, yeah.
all of them. So
Perfect. So
yeah.
you know, so you get it. So I grew up, with the comics, the X-Men comics and everything. When the movies came out, I was like, that is incredible. So Professor Xavier, he starts this school for
Hmm.
these kids who have these abilities and gifts that
Hmm.
are not accepted by society.
Hmm.
When I read those and saw that, I was like, oh my God, if I, as a kid, had someone to teach me what to do with my gifts, that would have been incredible, right? So,
Hmm.
backing it up, as a kid, I would see things. I could see, figures. I could feel figures. I would have really wild visions. And I
Hmm.
remember as a kid being told, oh, that's an imaginary friend. Or
Hmm.
and actually now I know like that's usually either a spirit guide or a loved one that has crossed over of
Hmm.
someone. I would catch visions and I'd be like, oh, I just saw this da 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 and like tell the whole story, and they'd be like, oh, you're daydreaming, right? So my whole life I had, the seeing the stories. I turned off the imaginary friends thing because I was like, people clearly aren't seeing these, so
Right.
I'm gonna turn that
Must
off.
be in my head.
Yeah,
Or
yeah, yeah,
right.
right. And then I always tell people, I'm like, remember that movie Drop Dead Fred in the 90s?
Yes.
Yeah. So
Okay.
that movie was like my everything because I was like,
Yes.
oh, she's like me, right?
Uh-huh.
So she sees like I do, and people think
Yes.
she's crazy. So I was just like,
Right.
okay, turn it off, turn it off. So she
Uh-huh.
turns it off in the movie. But the visions, the movies, I could not turn off. So I
Hmm.
love movies. I watch them, and I'm so inspired by film. So what would happen is when I would encounter people, I would kind of have like a flash of a movie in my mind, and I would think I was associating that person with an actual movie, right? I'd be like,
Mm.
oh man, like I'm really attaching such and such movie to that person, and I would just think that.
Mhm.
But what kind of cued me in that it was a little more than that was that I would
Mhm.
have strong feelings with it. Like I might
Mm.
feel really sad and I might even cry and not know why I was crying, right? Like I would feel this sadness in the presence of a certain individual and I'd see that movie and I think that it was the movie that was making me feel sad
Mhm. Mhm.
or joyful or safe or
Mhm.
relatable. All kinds of feelings I would feel with people. So in my probably late 20s, I remember an incident. I was out camping and I could hear this woman's, it felt like I could hear her thoughts or her crying
Mhm.
out for help in her mind. And I could not stop crying. Right. So, like the night I was with my husband at the time, and I was like, oh my God, like I feel like I'm hearing that woman crying for help. Like her marriage is awful. Her husband's emotionally abusive and she's not from here and da da da. I'm like telling her all this stuff and I could not knock the sadness and stop crying. They were in the
Mhm.
tent just like across the way. That's when I was like, something's wrong with me.
There's something going on. Right.
Right?
Mhm.
Something's wrong with me.
Yes.
So I researched it a little bit and then I remember Google, trying to uncover like what is wrong with me.
Yeah.
Why do I keep crying around people or feeling sad? And I would come across words like empath. And then I came across the word clairsentience.
Okay.
And so, what that looks like for me is I can feel someone's story. I can feel their energy. I can feel sometimes what they're thinking, right? Not so much as reading the
Their
mind,
mind. Yes.
but it's more of like your thoughts come with a feeling.
Okay.
And so that transfers, that's energy. That's why all the teachings that tell you to be careful what you think, because
What's bubbling, insiders? When was the last time you felt you could be still long enough to enjoy some much needed me time or have the flexibility to create more memories with your loved ones? Better yet, when have you felt like you didn't have to stress about a project deadline or getting something done around the house? You probably tell yourself all the time there just isn't enough time in a day. Besides our health, time is our most precious asset. Well, I know something that can help you get some of your time back. Inside the Bubble with Harley G is announcing its partnership with Bliss Virtual Services. They specialize in project based virtual support as well as ongoing support for in demand professionals, careerpreneurs, and busy parents. Go to my website, www.insidethebubblewithharleyg.com, subscribe to the mailing list. On Monday, July 10th, you will receive a link and unique code to access a private page on Bliss Virtual Services website. Once inside, you will be able to select from their various plans at a special rate only offered to insiders. So if you're not on my mailing list, go subscribe now.
Not only can people like me feel it, but because that energy goes out to people who can't even feel it in that way, but it's creating your reality. There's a lot to your thoughts that people don't understand. So fast forward to when I went to the shaman and she's like, oh, you're clairsentient. I'm like, oh my God, I felt so relieved. I felt so relieved and so seen and understood. I'm like, so there's other people like me that have this.
Right. I'm not alone.
I'm not alone. And like, so you can do something with that. Like that is a tool. Cause I just thought something was maybe wrong with me.
Right.
So then I learned, she's like, no, like you can help people with this. You know? And I was like, oh my God. So she said to me, would you be interested to do a shaman training? Right. And my initial thinking that day, I remember, was she probably says that to everyone. Like I was super skeptic. I was super skeptic. I was like, she's just trying to sell her. But I like her. I like her a lot. And she said some crazy stuff that like really, right? So I was like, I'm torn because I trust her, but like, I don't know. So the universe, as we said, you know, God, whatever we want to call it, has its way. And within a month, I ended up meeting 2 other shamans. And I had never met a shaman in my life, right? Okay. So like 1 month, 3 shamans. You can't deny that.
Right. That's a coincidence right there that you don't experience every day, right? Okay.
No. So at that point, I was like, okay, 3rd time. I'm a 3s person. I was like, okay, 3rd time. I guess I'll sign up for that training. So I signed up for her training. I do her training. It was like 6 or 9 months with her, and then fell in love with her. I always refer to her as my shaman mama. So she also invited me to come apprentice with her. So I did a short apprenticeship with her. I went on to train with other shamans and teachers kind of all over. You know, we live on the East Coast, so I would travel to New York or DC to do trainings with other teachers, great spiritual teachers. And I would say, and this is why I felt called to share about purpose, is I was kind of thrust into it, you know, through my own personal healing. But that moment when I realized it was my purpose was when I felt like my work just completely lit me up. Like when you're working in your purpose, you're so lit up. Like you don't want to do anything else, and you could not get enough of it. Right? Like like I could work for 12 hours a day. I do sometimes, and I'm not mad at it. I love it.
Feel like work.
Yeah, it's just it just lights me up. It's still, and it's been 7 solid years, almost 8 years. Still lights me up every day. Every day.
Wow. So you discover your ultimate purpose and
Yeah.
it is to become a shaman. And
Yeah.
so now, do we say shaman woman or is it just shaman?
Oh, I know, right? That was fun. We say shaman. In my house, I tell my man, you can call me queen.
Hey, that works too.
Queen works, shaman or
I'll
queen.
tell my husband that tonight. He's gonna be like, I mean,
Right.
but he's smart, so he'll probably say, okay, fine. He'll roll with it, but he won't know why. But anyway,
Right.
that's fine.
Exactly.
But you end up walking on that journey and discovering your ultimate purpose, which is what this podcast is really about, right? It's about touching people's lives and letting them know that first of all, you're not alone. So we have to first acknowledge that whatever it is that you're going through, somebody else has been through it, is going through it, or that you may be the witness to someone else, right? And that as long as you're on that journey, and purpose has no age, it has no gender, it has no timeline. So no matter where you are in that journey of life, there's
Yeah.
always the opportunity to discover your ultimate purpose.
100%.
And that's what I love about purpose.
Yeah.
This was something that I always ask myself that question: what is it that I'm meant to be doing? What is it that I'm supposed to be doing? And discovering that purpose, just like you said, it does not feel like work. Now, the admin stuff does feel like work.
I know.
So I will put that out there. Okay.
A second.
But if I could, and the goal for me is, and I'm just remembering something else too that I want to mention. But if I could sit and interview individuals all day and connect to them through their story, I love it. I love doing that. I love being on a pod, hearing people's journey, and seeing where they came from, where they're going, what they've been through. Does not feel like work. It just feels like I'm kicking it up, having a conversation, and I can talk. So I can do this all day. And it does not feel like work. And another thing that you mentioned too is in your situation, you talk about the feelings and the energy and putting things out there. And that is so important. So one of the thing is, we're both entrepreneurs as well. And it's very important to me that I do affirmations and I visualize where I am going, because having that vision in front of you is what is, I think that's what allows you to actually reach the goal. It's,
Yeah.
it's saying, and I tell my husband that all the time, especially when we first met. I'm like, be careful what you say, because your words are manifestation of what you would like to happen.
Yep.
And he was just like, whatever. And I'm like, no. So I'm really intentional about what I say and what I visualize, because that is part of the manifestation of what I want for myself.
Mm.
And I interviewed someone a while ago, and she tells the story that she had two posters growing up. She had two posters on her ceiling, one of Prince and one of Michael Jackson. And she would tell herself that Michael Jackson was her husband and Prince was her boyfriend. She was like, that's my husband, that's my boyfriend. And she had these two posters, and she said that. Well, she went into the entertainment industry. And actually, that episode is dropping in 2 weeks. So stay tuned to see what I'm talking about. She went into the entertainment industry, or you can Google what I'm about to say, and then it might come out. But she ended up interviewing Prince. She was the last person to interview Prince before he passed away.
Wow.
And her husband's name is Mike Jackson.
That is deep.
I'm just saying. I am just saying. Be intentional. The point of this is, like you said, be intentional about what you visualize for yourself and what you tell yourself. I interviewed someone not so long ago as well, and she said, if you had a conversation, think about the conversation that you have with yourself. And if you had a conversation with somebody else, would you be telling them the same thing that you tell yourself?
Yeah, exactly.
That's deep right there, because we're hard on ourselves, and we are our own worst critic in some instances. But it's really important that we stay mindful of the conversations that we have with ourselves, and that the energy that you put out there, you need to be aware of it. It's
Yeah.
so important, right? And when you said that, I was like, oh, that kind of hit
Yeah.
hard for me, because
Yeah.
I'm practicing, and it's a practice. I'm practicing being intentional about what I'm visualizing, the conversation that I'm having with myself, because I want to be myself. I want to be my biggest cheerleader. Like, I
Yes.
want to make sure that nobody's going to be able to come here and tell me who is Harli. Mm-mm.
Yes.
No, 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 no.
I just posted about that today on
Wow.
Instagram. On
Okay. Okay.
Instagram.
Yes.
It's like a 45-second message, but it was
Mm-hmm.
coming strong because in my boot camp group today, which I do a
Mm-hmm.
live 12-week women's boot camp, breakthrough boot camp,
Mm-hmm.
and we were talking about over the last week the voices in our heads, and we did a meditation where we actually buried the negative voices,
Mm.
and then we hand over a megaphone or a microphone to the voice we want to hear. So
Wow.
today I posted a quick video on Instagram because I was celebrating that after my group,
Mm-hmm.
where I said, you're sometimes not going to be able to discern, like, is that my voice? Is that my mom's voice? My
Right.
grandpa's voice? Like
Yes.
my teacher from second grade that embarrassed me?
Exactly.
I not know whose voice. It could be the enemy. I do believe in an enemy. Um,
Absolutely.
right? It could be in your head if you let it
Mm-hmm.
get in there. And no judgment if you let it get in there. It happens, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you might not recognize that it's not your voice because it sounds like your voice. So what I said
Mm-hmm.
too is that sometimes the enemy will disguise itself as your
Absolutely.
voice in your
Yes.
mind, but you get to choose who you hand the microphone to, right? Your mind.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can
Mm-hmm.
think like that, like there's a loud voice in my mind right now. I really don't like what it's saying. I'm going to take
Mm-hmm.
the microphone away from it and I'm going to hand
Mm-hmm.
it to the loving, supportive voice
Mm.
in my mind.
I love
We can
it.
choose that. We can choose that.
Yes. Yes. So, how, okay, so I want to hear a little bit about this boot camp situation
Oh,
that you got
yeah.
going on. So tell us a little bit about that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
so the boot camp stems from me looking back over time
Mm-hmm.
at
Mm-hmm.
myself in that catalytic moment where I was like, "Ooh, I want to leave here." I'm like, I'm just coming into my power.
Right.
Like I'm not fully in it. I'm just ready to step into it. I don't know how I'm going to leave this marriage or this home or make
Mm-hmm.
money or become the woman I want to be. I don't even know who I want to
Right.
be. Right? I don't know, but I know I want to do it. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So I went back and I thought about what did I need at that time? What would have
Mm-hmm.
helped me through? What was I doing at that time?
Yeah.
I was calling psychics,
Yes.
like help me,
Uh-huh.
tell me everything's gonna be okay.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Tell me what's the right choice, what's gonna happen next. Uh,
Yes.
so when I look back, I thought, wow, what if I had someone to guide me kind of step by step through that entire metamorphosis of myself?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So the breakthrough boot camp is I'm helping women who are in those breakdown moments. I say like we
Mm.
turn your breakdown into a breakthrough.
Yes.
So when you're breaking down,
Mm-hmm.
I do provide one-on-one counsel.
Mm-hmm.
It's a 12-week program.
Mm-hmm.
Over the course of 12 weeks, a small group of women comes together. Every
Mm-hmm.
week, I have a topic, a theme, and I have a workbook that we follow. And we do journaling prompts, and we do meditations and shamanic journeys together. And we vision, just like you just said, like using
Mm-hmm.
affirmations and visioning, but it's guided because a lot of times when you feel overwhelmed with life in those moments of
You
breakdown,
don't know where. Yeah.
and you will come up with every excuse why you can't do the thing you need to do,
Woo!
right? Right?
Yes.
So I call it
Yes.
boot camp because in boot camp, I treat it like a boot camp. I'm like, no, get it out right now and write this down. Say
Uh-huh.
this out loud. Get your phone out, get your voice memos, record yourself telling your new story about your life. So I do those types of exercises with the women live time, and then they have like little homework. We read books, so I'll make book recommendations. And over the 12 weeks, this week was really fun. I told them, I'm like, this is my favorite week. It was week number 8, which is stepping into the new me shoes. Right. So we do some visioning, like, who is the new me? What does she look
Mm-hmm.
like? What is
Yes.
she wearing? What are 5 words to describe like her life? What does her
Mm-hmm.
relationships look like? Her house? And then we take all of that and we create Pinterest boards,
Ooh.
right? So I tell
Yes.
everyone it's kind of like a vision board, but Pinterest
Mm-hmm.
is nice. It's
Mm-hmm.
quick and digital. You have access to
Yes.
it anytime.
Exactly. Yes.
So we create a Pinterest board. We call it our Breakthrough and Blossom Pinterest board.
Mm-hmm.
And we share it with the group. So there's a lot of sharing, engagement, sisterhood,
Mm-hmm.
support. So that was this week. And
Mm-hmm.
we have little prompts. And over the 12 weeks and even following, women come back to me and they're like, oh my God, like everything that I put on my Pinterest board and that I scripted out, it
Mm-hmm.
happened.
Yes.
Happened.
Yes.
I traveling, I got the man, I got the job I wanted, I have the
Mm-hmm.
money, whatever
Mm-hmm.
it is. Like usually within a year, they are there.
Wow. That's crazy. I mean, that just goes to show the power of, again, visualizing, affirmation. When you change that voice, when you're intentional about changing that voice, that inner voice,
Yes.
um, like just the power that you come into when you do that. And like you said, a lot of people don't know how to do that. They're like, I've been like this all my life. I'm not about to change right now, but you can. You
Yeah.
can. You have to do the work
Yep.
to do it, because I mean, think about it. It's something that you've been doing for how long, right? And it's important. I just think it's so powerful.
It
So
is so
powerful.
powerful. And I
Yeah.
tell people, I'm like, honestly, like even this week I was in because I also lead sessions called Soul Medicine. So I have a lot of
Mm-hmm.
different groups that people can
Mm-hmm.
participate. But this week and I have different facilitators now because
Mm-hmm.
I've
Mm-hmm.
grown and I've trained
Yeah.
others to do exactly what I do. And we
Uh-huh.
work together and we facilitate groups. So this week we talked about our life vision. We had the new moon coming up this weekend.
Wow.
Um, and I was like, oh my God, like I'm living in my life vision. So I have to create a new vision because I've
Uh-huh.
literally manifested everything that I could possibly think of
Mm-hmm.
in it. And I'm not even worried about the future,
Yeah.
right? Because my present is
Wow.
so incredible. I've got the
Yes.
man, I've got the house, I've got the kids, I've got the dogs, I've got the job. Like I
Mm-hmm.
was like, I don't even know, what do I want next?
Yes.
Push myself because we're creators. That's why we're
Yes.
so pushing
Exactly.
myself into, well, if I could have more,
Mm-hmm.
what would it be? Uh,
Okay.
so that type of thing though, but it's proof. Like I feel that is proof, and there's so much proof now on YouTube and TikTok that these things
Mm-hmm.
work. It
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. What do you feel like as you started going on that shaman journey and you're going through it?
Yeah.
What do you feel? Who do you feel are those individuals who really truly supported you? Because I will say, like again, shaman, queen is not someone that I run into, very often. And what does that look like for you when you go and tell? I'm not sure if you're married at the time and you tell your husband, you're like, yeah, this is what I want to do. And then how does he respond? And what does support look like for you?
Yeah. So because my husband and I had grown up together, he saw
Mm-hmm.
different iterations of me.
Okay.
Artist me,
Mm-hmm.
architectural designer me, yogi teacher me, shaman me.
Mm-hmm.
He
Mm-hmm.
was right at the kind of the cutoff of the old me.
Okay.
Um, it's hard when your partner becomes a different person,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
suddenly have different beliefs and different interests. You have to decide, like, do I align with this? Do I believe
Mm-hmm.
this? Do I have to believe? Can we be different?
Mm-hmm.
But I did feel at the time um, a bit misunderstood.
Got it. Mm-hmm.
I felt a little shame, in
Mm-hmm.
that situation, and not totally comfortable to share everything about who I was or
Yes.
what I was experiencing. I mean, even to this day, you know, to be completely vulnerable, I'm in the middle of a custody battle because he questions my mental health because of the work I do.
Wow. Okay.
I'm totally sane. I've had my brain mapped. I have licensed psychotherapist. Like I'm sane,
Right.
but he doesn't share the same beliefs,
Mm-hmm.
and nor does his wife. So there's shaming that happens.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, today people, you know, they appear very open-minded, but
Mm-hmm.
there's still people that are not as open-minded as others, and
Yes.
so there is shaming that happens, especially when someone has beliefs that have not been as widely accepted for the last 100 years,
Right.
right?
Right.
Uh, so it takes a lot. It took a lot of courage for me to come out of the closet and
Mm-hmm.
the shaman closet, right? And share
Mm-hmm.
in the beginning. I didn't want to set up a website for myself because I
Mm-hmm.
didn't want people to know what I did.
Yeah. Yeah.
My family's Christian, and you know, I also have family that's Jehovah's Witness, and I was like, I don't want my family to think I'm like a witch or you know
Mm-hmm.
whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
I'm very close with my aunt, and I remember her asking like, "Well, do you still believe in God?" Right? And I was like, "Yes, actually, I do."
Yes.
Um,
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
those type of things. So I think there are people who misjudge and you know, form beliefs based on what they see me putting out or what they associate with a spiritual person who's not tied to a religion. I'm not tied to a religion, although I do embrace Christianity and
Mm-hmm.
Buddhism. And you
Mm-hmm.
don't
Okay.
have to choose. And I tell people, you don't have to choose one religion. You can
Mm-hmm.
follow practices, values from more than one religion.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
they're all the same heart-centered teachings.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Uh, but there are people today that are still dogmatically minded,
Mm-hmm.
where we have a large Catholic community here, right?
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
as a mom, you know, sometimes I wonder if I'm not invited to things, you know, with other moms, maybe because of
Mm-hmm.
my beliefs. I'm not sure, you know.
Oh,
Sometimes
wow.
my intuition tells me that might be it. Uh,
Okay.
but that's okay. That's unfortunately still a time that we're living in. But what I can say is my current partner has been the biggest support of my life, you know, financially, emotionally, spiritually. He is a cheerleader. I
Mm-hmm.
can talk to him about anything that I
Mm-hmm.
see because I
Mm-hmm.
see all kinds of crazy things in my mind
Mm-hmm.
and I feel things. If I'm in a place and I feel emotionally overwhelmed and I might
Mm-hmm.
like have to fight tears back, which I have that under control very well, but there's
Mm-hmm.
still times where I'm like, ooh,
Moments, right.
here, you know, then he embraces that. You know, he'll
Mm-hmm.
like put his hand on my shoulder, my back, and be like, "Are you
Mm-hmm.
okay?"
Mm-hmm.
I can share my dreams with him. He does not think I'm crazy in the least bit. So
Okay.
having a partner, you know, the person who you share your bed with,
Mm-hmm.
believe in you, as a businesswoman, the
Mm-hmm.
person who I share my bed with
Mm-hmm.
believes in me as a businesswoman, right? Like supports me and sees the potential in my
Yes.
business,
Yes.
not just me as a human, but my business. That is so incredible. And I
Yes.
feel like that has really catapulted me forward. Also, I must say, my kids,
Um.
they're proud of their mom. They're proud of the work I do. They talk. My daughter was saying the other day, she was so proud. She's like, you know, I've got really good parents to be proud of.
Oh.
She's like, my dad's an artist and my mom's a shaman.
Oh.
You know, so for her, she was just like, that is the best jobs any parents could have. Right?
Oh.
So she was like working through this verbally, like,
Yes.
I love my parents and their job,
Yeah.
right?
That is so.
My stepkids, like they love my job. We also still do a lot of yoga. So
Mm-hmm.
we'll do yoga together. They'll talk, but they'll get out. I do have crystals and, you know, oracle cards, things like this. The kids will get them out and they
Mm-hmm.
support it. They'll give me ideas for my Instagram or
Oh,
things I should
wow.
do for YouTube, you know. So they're very
Yeah.
supportive and inspiring.
Very involved. Yes.
And my community, my client community has been insanely supportive, and they
Mm-hmm.
are very largely the reason why I continue to put myself out there and
Mm-hmm.
grow is because of my client community.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're
That
so
is
reassuring
wonderful.
and just so good.
That is wonderful. That is so good. I hope in just hearing yourself say this, that you are realizing, you know what? I got this little thing over here, little shoe fly, but um, you have this amazing, first of all, partner. Kudos to him. Your kids are involved in what you're doing, which I think is huge, and your community is there backing you up every step of the way. And I think that right there is golden.
I know, makes me want to cry just hearing you
I
repeat that back.
know.
So I'm so
Yes.
grateful. So
Yes.
grateful.
It's beautiful. It is absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
And this is crazy, but yes, it's time. I do want you to let people know, let our listeners know, how do they reach out to you if they
Yeah.
want to know more about what you're doing, or even if they want to utilize your services, where can they find you?
Yeah. So number one, I know a lot of people are on Instagram today,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So I'm on the Instagram.
Oh,
Um, so I'm trying to do better about posting, professional stuff, but I
yes.
post a lot of pictures of my kids. Um,
Listen, like, I'm gonna do life, and whatever is involved in life, that's what's gonna go on there.
yes, that's
Sorry.
exactly
Yeah.
right. There's not a
Like,
lot of strategy that's been going into that,
exactly.
but that's a great place to find me to
Hmm.
connect. I
Yes.
like to be connected with
Yes.
others and share.
Yes.
I do have a website, so it's www.seasideshaman.com.
Mm-hmm.
So you can find my website, and then you'll see under work with me, there's
Mm-hmm.
different ways that I can work with whomever feels called to reach out to me. So my soul medicine groups, they are basically classes that go on throughout the week. So if you think of like when you go to a yoga class, which
Mm-hmm.
they went virtual during COVID, um,
Mm-hmm.
it's like a virtual yoga class for your soul.
Yeah.
So you come in, I lead you through journaling, I lead you through meditative exercises, visualizing, etc.
Mm-hmm.
And you get to connect with other women who are like-minded. So soul
Mm-hmm.
medicine drop-ins, all that, you can find that on my site. Breakthrough Boot Camp, it runs in 12-week segments. And
Okay.
one of
Okay.
my favoriteest things that I do, we get to know each other really well and really personally over the course of 12
Love it.
weeks. That's on there. Also, if you feel like, man, I really would like to meet Athena, virtually and do a one-on-one, you'll see
Mm-hmm.
a link for one-on-one booking.
Perfect. Perfect. And what was the Instagram name?
Yeah, so it's easy. It's the Seaside Shaman.
Okay. I just want to make sure that I have the information. So,
Yes, yes, ma'am.
perfect. Well, thank you so much, Athena, for um, coming on the pod and being vulnerable and sharing your story, because it is no easy feat. As we go through these experiences, these stories, these journeys, sometimes we shame ourselves and what we have gone through.
Mhm.
We put guilt around it. We ostracize ourselves, and we're like, no, this is the secret and I must hold on to it. What we don't understand is that by putting ourselves out there, making ourselves vulnerable, letting other people know what we go through, first of all, it chips away at the shame, right? It's no longer something that you're hiding in the closet. Second of all, you are actually helping and impacting somebody else
Yes.
that
Woo.
is going through it. And it's like, whoo, I just got chills, because that is so important, especially as a result of the pandemic and us having to be in isolation for so long. It's like we almost forgot that we have a whole community that will back us up. We're
Mhm.
not in this alone. You're not in this alone. Okay. That is the message of the enemy telling you that you should be ashamed and that you are in this alone. That is absolutely wrong.
Yes.
And so, what I love about this podcast is the fact that I'm able to bring individual stories such as your own to share with our listeners and chip away at that message that says that you are alone. You're not. And so, thank you so much for coming on today and sharing your story. And we're going to follow you, whether it's a post about your kids or it's something professional. We're gonna follow you, okay?
I love it. I love it.
I just can't wait to see where your journey is gonna take you next as you continue to walk on that path. I can't wait to see where it ends, and let's continue to visualize together, right? That's really important. So thank you so much.
Thank you. This is so beautiful. Thank you for
Yeah,
having
thank you. So insiders, you've heard it. You've heard it here. You've seen it here. Our very first shawoman, queen.
me. I love
You can address her in any of those three ways here on the pod. I hope you really truly enjoyed this show. I heard you learned something today. You pulled away from this episode with something that you didn't know about, right? And of course, as you know, we are dropping new episodes every week. We are approaching the 1 year anniversary of the pod. Can't believe I'm saying this. This is crazy, right? But 1 year anniversary of the pod. We have some big announcements that are about to hit you. So please make sure that you stay tuned. And of course, like, share, follow, subscribe. We're on Instagram, Facebook, their social medias. And we can't wait to hear what you thought about this episode. So write a review. Tell us what you think. We'd love to hear from you. And what I always say before I sign off is there's purpose in your story.
I hope you enjoyed our show today. Hit the subscribe button and share. Share this pod with your family, with your friends, with your girlfriends, and follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Inside the Bubble with HG. Keep the conversation going. Drop us a heart emoji, engage with us. We would love to hear from you. New episodes are dropping every Monday on your podcast streaming platforms. And remember, there's purpose in your story.